Hey everyone, welcome to today's discussion. We're diving into a fascinating topic. Why haven't we been back to the moon since the Apollo missions? It seems like such a huge achievement, and then dot nothing. So what's the deal?
It's a great question, and the answer isn't a simple one. It's not like we suddenly forgot how to get there or lost interest in space. It's more like a bunch of things all happening at once.
Like what? I mean, we've got rockets, we've got astronauts. What's stopping us? Is it just too expensive?
Cost is a big part of it, yes. The Apollo program was incredibly expensive, even more so when you adjust for inflation. Think of it like this. Building a rocket is like building a giant, super complicated Lego castle. It takes a lot of time, resources, and skilled builders.
Okay, so money's a problem, but surely there's more to it than just that, right? I mean, science keeps advancing.
Absolutely. The Cold War was a huge driver for the Apollo missions. It was a race, a competition between the US and the Soviet Union. Once the US won, that pressure eased. The geopolitical reasons for spending so much money on the moon just weren't there anymore.
So it's all about showing off who's better at space stuff. That's kind of underwhelming.
Well, it was a big part of it, but also scientific priorities shifted. After Apollo, there was more interest in things like space stations, places where scientists could do experiments in space for longer periods, and robotic missions became much more advanced and cheaper.
Robotic missions, like robots exploring other planets? That makes sense. It's probably safer and cheaper than sending people.
Exactly. Sending humans is incredibly risky and expensive. Robots can go to places that are too dangerous for humans, and they don't need life support systems or spacesuits.
So it's a combination of cost, changing priorities, and the risks involved in sending humans? Anything else?
Yes, there's the challenge of a long-term lunar presence. The Apollo missions were short trips. Setting up a permanent base on the moon is a whole different ballgame. We'd need to deal with things like radiation, finding resources on the moon itself, and creating self-sufficient life support systems.
Wow, that sounds complicated. Like building a whole city on the moon, is that even possible?
It's definitely challenging, but not impossible. We're making progress in areas like resource utilization, finding ways to use materials already on the moon to build things, and new technologies are making long-duration missions more feasible.
So there's hope yet? It's not like we've completely given up on the moon?
Not at all. There's a renewed interest in returning to the moon, driven by things like private space companies, international collaboration, and new discoveries about the moon's resources.
Private companies, like companies that aren't government funded?
Yes. Companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are making space travel cheaper and more accessible. They're also interested in mining resources on the moon, which could make a lunar base more economically viable.
So it's becoming more of a business opportunity now? It's interesting.
It's a mix of things: science, business, and the human desire to explore. It's not just about planting a flag anymore. It's about establishing a long-term presence on the moon and using it as a stepping stone to explore even further into space.
So what's the timeline looking like? When can we expect to see humans back on the moon?
There are several missions planned in the coming years, with the Artemis program being a major one. It's a collaborative effort involving many countries, and the goal is to establish a sustainable lunar base. But it's a long-term project, and there will be challenges along the way.
So it's not going to happen overnight, but there's definitely progress being made. That's good to know.
Exactly. The silent moon might be getting ready to wake up again.
This has been a really interesting discussion. Thanks for shedding light on this complex topic. It's clear that the reasons for not returning to the moon are multifaceted, but the future looks promising for a renewed lunar exploration. Thanks for joining us.